Oh my gosh. Hey, Hugh.
Hi, Pep.
I'm glad we decided to do this because the last time we were on Instagram Live, we had a lot to talk about.
I feel like last time we were on a bit of a vibe talking about books.
I love the idea of chatting about books, because I realized I'm much more of a reader this
Now that you're out of
time
school.
around. Yeah, now that I'm whatever age I'm at, that I'm much more of a reader now than I was in past years. But the some of my favorite books so far. Let me. What are you reading? Tell me about it if you have a copy while I go and get.
Oh, I do. I actually am obsessed with this book right now, which I only started like a few days ago, but I think it's like perfect for spooky season. It's Cuckoo by Gretchen Felker Martin. Really fabulous queer horror disturbing historical 1995 conversion camp nightmares. It's like if you took that RuPaul movie, but I'm a cheerleader, and did the like horror version of it. It's really it's perfect. It's perfect for right now. It's perfect for Halloween. It's perfect for thinking about the attack on like queer and trans civil rights. It's unfortunately perfect for having like nightmare scenario visions of what might happen under a Trump regime to all of us. In every way, just a perfect book for right now. And Cuckoo.
What's the author's name?
Gretchen Felker Martin, right there.
That's a name.
Anytime you got a hyphen in your name, I feel so bad for you because you had to spend your life filling out those Scanton bubble sheets like for half an hour after the rest of us were done.
Oh my God, do they still use those?
I have no idea. It feels like they would never go away, but also like kids today probably have never heard of them and would look at us like we had two heads if we talked about it.
The Scantron thing felt so futuristic, but now I'm sure it's quite archaic.
Does anybody use pencils
Um,
anymore? Yeah.
I don't know. I bet you in schools they use computer. Okay, we're too old. We can't talk about this. A couple special mentions is Nicole Byer's book, which she doesn't explicitly identify as queer, but I consider her in the queer world and community. It's a book of essays and it's a pictures and things like that. It's fantastic. It's cute, little fun little book. It's called Very Fat, Very Brave. Nicole Byer.
I
Love
loved her HBO special, which I cannot remember the title of right now, but was hilarious.
Here's another special mention: Caste, The Origin of Our Discontent. I just think it's really a good book, and I recently rewatched the movie Origin, which is why I want to read this book again. That's not queer. That's just everybody.
But I love cast, and I love history books like that for like one big reason, which is that you're not just reading about like some random crap from the 12th century or whatever. It actually helps you to understand today better, like our world better, like everything we're dealing with.
It puts it into perspective. I mean, there's so much about our world that we obviously don't know, but especially with the way that like political processes work and governmental processes and all of this stuff and like the establishment of nations, unless you study it, the most you know about it is whatever was in whatever section of an elementary school book, and that's clearly not enough.
Yeah.
You know,
You know how you said that reading in school kind of killed it for you? History in school killed it for me. Having to memorize like the names and dates of presidents and kings and wars and not actually learning anything, it felt like. Hated history until I was doing it on my
exactly,
own.
because it wasn't really accurate. The gravity of how our country became established is not reflected in any of those history books. That's for sure.
And our teachers, like, I don't know about you, but like, I went to a public school. It was a great public school, but I still had teachers who would tell us things like, and this is an actual quote from like 10th grade social studies.
Oh God.
The difference between communism and socialism is that
what?
communism is bad. That was it. The whole lesson. Communism is bad. It was a very Cold War infected history lesson.
Was that in a book?
That was our teacher.
No,
we asked.
That was your teacher
that was
saying
his
the
response.
difference is communism is bad. Why is communism bad if apparently it's just like socialism? And
He
they're
just had
saying
no
that socialism's
answers.
not whatever. That's no answer, honey. Communism. Okay. All right.
That's
Great.
why books
See,
like
this is
Cast
why we have
make
to
me
go
so
back.
excited. Yeah, because they teach
Exactly.
us
We
all
have
the
to go
things we
back and
should have known
read.
already, and what they mean, and why they matter.
And redeeming all that stuff. Speaking of history, for everybody that's watching this right now and is really interested in queer history, of course you have to pick up When Brooklyn Was
Yeah.
Queer by this person right here, Hugh Ryan. Hello. Um,
I've heard fabulous things
and
about him.
I've heard great things about him too. And I didn't read When Brooklyn Was Queer. That'll be on my list. I did read Women's House of Detention. Again, it's like it's on the shelf with books like this that are go back and
Thank
teach us
you.
so much about the history, and it really like puts a black and white picture suddenly into color, technicolor
And it
for
did it
me.
for me too, because I didn't know anything about that prison before I started writing that book. I was like super ignorant. That's why I do so much of my history, is because there's so many things I don't know. The same reason I read a book is the reason I write a book, because I don't know an answer, and it drives me nuts until I can find it.
That's all American history, but something I didn't know much about is the history, the very rich history. I mean, you and I have talked in the context of queer history and sort of like the sort of legacy and culture of cruising and sort of what that has meant for queer spaces, queer communities, queer people in
Mm-hmm.
spaces that become queer or are queer, whether they were intended to be queer or not. Um, and I learned about recently about Molly houses, which were in England and London, the infamous Molly houses of London. Wait, can you tell me a little bit about Molly houses?
Yes,
What
a
you know
little
about
bit,
them?
a little bit. You know what I know. Basically, back in the day, there used to be two kinds of brothels for queer folks. You had your Molly houses and you had your peg houses. Your peg houses were if you were looking for trade. Your Molly houses were if you were looking for femboys, trans women, inverts, intersex people. So two different kinds of like brothels, basically. That's my understanding. Is that what you were reading?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a fiction book by a friend of mine who is also an author. It's called The Betrayal of Thomas True, and it is a romance slash mystery, murder mystery. And you know what I love about this? It is one of the classiest looking. Of course, this is like the
Oh,
first edition hardback, so like they're always nice
the
the
good
first
shit.
time around. Yeah, but like it has like this peacock um, printing
Oh,
along
and the
the.
color on the inside is so beautiful. Look
Isn't
at
it
that.
gorgeous and
Like
beautiful?
Tiffany
It's
blue.
just
Oh.
it's so beautiful. And
No, wait, wait,
so,
wait. Who's that author? Show that to me again.
oh, AJ West. I'm sorry. And here's his
AJ
picture.
West.
Yep,
Look
yep,
at
yep.
that.
He's a friend of mine and someone I have known for many years. He wrote a little note for me. Did he actually sign the book though? What's this little postcard?
Oh, you got to go to like the event to get the book
Oh no,
signed.
it's signed. It's signed.
Oh,
It's
okay.
signed. I'm like, okay, come on, boo. Let's
Oh.
see.
I actually talked to AJ a couple months ago because he was working on a project trying to write about the history of queer bookstores, which I thought was fascinating. And unfortunately, I knew nothing about it, so I couldn't help him.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I think he's working on that for his next work. I think,
Oh,
um, or like
that made me excited
putting the
because
research together.
I just feel like, we're talking about queer space and the importance of it and making queer space, and it's like queer spaces have been disappearing. All the bars have been closing down, the clubs, the places we used to hang out together,
Honestly,
and the bookstores have been
yes.
disappearing.
There's a there's a foreword that I just wrote for a book about all the queer spaces. Hold on. Let me just tell you what it's called. Queer Happened Here, and it's an upcoming book. The Queer Happened Here book is a list, an index. What is a collection of whatever referential book that also has stories about really popular places in New York City that were at one time like iconic queer spaces. Some of them are obviously still here. Some of them are certainly gone and now like a bank or Dwayne Reed or something. And so it is really interesting. I told a story in the forward about Jay's Hangout. Um, Not just about Jay's Hangout, but about the meatpacking district and then Jay's Hangout. Like speaking the sort of flip side of a brothel, which is just like a sex club. And nobody's really paying. Maybe some people are. And so Jay's Hangout was famously in the Triangle Building down in the meatpacking district, which you probably know that. I'm not sure if you did.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it.
It was a sex place, sex club. Well, first of all like the downtown sex clubs. Okay, there was like bathhouses and sex clubs, which were like kind of different. This is not a bathhouse. This was like straight up like basement of a building where people would just go in there and have sex. And they were all located in the same place. The straight ones and the gay ones and the queer ones were all located in the same area.
Really?
And one building, the Triangle Building on 14th Street and 9th and Hudson, housed two of them on either side. The one side was the gay side, and the other side was the straight side of the building. And they were probably the same like unit, but just on opposite sides of the building. And so there was one. The gay one was called Jay's Hangout, just the letter J, and they had a little tiny like 4-seater bar at the as soon as you came in, and then downstairs was the sex club. But women and femmes were not allowed downstairs. So I never really knew. I only went into the bar once, and then I was not allowed to go any further. But I did go to the straight side because any kind of femme was welcomed into the straight side of the Hellfire Club, which is probably a little more famous in name. They did a sequence about it in Pose, where one of the girls worked at the Hellfire Club, sex club. It was like a straight leather sex club. And so that's where I was. But now it's a restaurant, and a restaurant that I could never afford to go into. And I was like, honey, if you only knew what happened at what is now the Salad Station, formerly the Tossing Salad Station.
Every time I cross past the building that used to be Limelight, when it became like a high-end mall, all I could think
pizza
is like,
store.
Yeah, how many people were doing coke off of that counter that you are now selling like $5,000 perfumes off of? It shocks me, but that's so New York, right? Like everything is something for 20 minutes, and then it's something else, and it's never
Something
that other
else.
thing again. But what I was gonna say, oh my god, I totally forgot about this.
Tell me about. We were talking
I was
about
totally excited.
book locations,
Bookstores,
queer
bookstores, and the lack of both of those things. I just found out that I live in Bed-Stuy in Brooklyn, and in like sort of right next to me over in Bushwick, Hive Mind Books is about to open up a new queer bookstore, queer coffee shop, new location.
You kidding?
Yeah, super excited. We've been needing more queer bookstores ever since like Oscar Wilde closed down, and like we need some good queer bookstores for good queer books. So Hive Mind Books, follow them on Instagram. They're opening up later this month.
Yes, we do, because of all of the bans and things like that. And I wonder if these book bans have impacted like online sales, like availability. Is like Amazon participating in any book bans?
Oh, that's a good question.
Not that we need to buy our books from Amazon, but like Amazon was notoriously known as on the very first online mainstream online like book depot, right?
Mm-hmm. I think the biggest thing that's affecting like online sales is like you and I, if a book is banned at our library or whatever, we can go online and we can buy it, But it's kids, it's folks who don't have a lot of money. They're the ones that are really getting hit by these bans. Yeah. And that's why I think those of us
even at the library you could get them, but libraries are closing down too.
Yeah, closing down, losing their hours, not able to buy books. People are banning the books that are there, taking them and destroying them. It's crazy right now. And so I think we really do need more bookstores, more books, more people recommending books, more people reading books, more podcasts about books.
Exactly. That's honestly why I did it last year. I did a queer book list because I wanted to feature Raquel Willis's book,
The Cost That It
the
Takes to
power.
Bloom.
Yes, hello.
Oh,
Which is
she
so
is so
good.
good.
From the first page, Hugh. From the first page, I'm telling you. Also, Elliot Page's book, Page Boy. I featured Got Mixed book with Gigi Gorgeous. It's called The Tea Guide, which is basically a collection of stories and sort of like personal stories from trans folks. Anyway, so I put together a whole list of your book was on that list as well. Yeah. Women's House of Detention. So yeah, I did the point is I did a list last year and people really looked forward to it. And when I talked about the betrayal of Thomas True a couple of months ago when it launched, because it launched early, like about a month and a half ago, I said maybe I'll do another list. And people were like, yes, you have to, because I've been looking for a queer book club. And so maybe, Hugh, we do some kind of book club.
I mean, I wouldn't say no. I think people are hungry for it. And it's like what you were saying last time when we were live, that what we need is like, okay, not that we're lazy or anything, but we're all busy people, right? And there's a lot of books out there. And how do you know what is the book you're going to be into? How do you know, particularly if you're reading from like a queer perspective, that you're not going to get halfway through a book and it's going to turn really transphobic and gross and you're going to like put it down and feel awful? We need guides. We need people to help us like think about these books, talk about these books, spread the word. I mean, as an author, I would love if there was a queer book podcast, a queer history podcast that would bring on authors, chat with us about our work, spread the word to the world about what we're doing. And you're right. Maybe we should be the ones to make it.
Maybe that is a new thing to do. I think we should do. Well, Matt, let's talk about it and like do another. Like, what would it be?
Yeah.
We would bring people on, talk to them, talk about their work, feature books that we think people should be paying attention to. That and maybe even new books that are, stuff that people should be paying attention to.
Yeah, I think definitely like your list.
Banned.
And then we want to bring attention to the creators, the artists, the writers, the folks who are out there doing the work right now. I mean, I still, of course, want to talk about historical books because I like an old book. But there's so much right now. There's still richness of books coming out that I think we could talk about all of that. We could talk about talk about banned books, talk about what's happening in the news related to books. Like, there's a lot there to dig into, I think.
Okay, I like it. Well, honey, we'll call it Nuts and Poles and Nuts.
I mean, that'll get people listening.
It sure will. Good God, my mom will be like, darling. I think that's a great idea. Then we should definitely talk about it, and maybe we'll come back on here and do another little ditty like this and test it out. Wherever you're watching this, leave a comment in the mechanism below, and then like, would you join a book club, like to get access to an information
our
about
recommendations?
Queer books? Yeah, our recommendations. Yeah. Should we do a book club? Should we do a podcast? Should we do both? Like, what do you think? I think that'd be pretty.
And
cool,
what are queer books that you love right now? Let us know. Like, tell us what people are into, what you're reading. Like, I'm curious.
Yeah, gosh, this is okay. This is great. I'm energized. I love it. Now I'm going to go write down a list of books.
We'll each do it. I'll come with a list. You'll come with a list. Next time we meet up, we'll chat about some books.
I love it. Okay, so then we'll
Fabulous.
do another one. Okay, listen, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow both of us, and keep your eyes peeled. We might have something new.
We'll be back. Watch out for the
All
nuts
right,
and poles in the
bye.
meantime.
Oh my
Bye.
God.